I never thought revenge could taste like the copper tang of my own blood in someone else's mouth. But here I was, staring down at my trembling hands, his hands, rough from years of gripping steering wheels and signing fraudulent checks, feeling the pulse of a life that wasn't mine hammering against my ribs. It started 3 months ago at that godforsaken family dinner in our McMansion outside Atlanta, where the air smelled of overcooked green beans and buried resentments. My husband, Richard, the golden boy of Southern real estate, had risen like a Baptist preacher mid-sermon, his face flushed with bourbon and spite, and declared to my parents, his parents, our daughter Ellie, and a dozen cousins that I, Scarlet Hayes, the devoted wife who'd clawed her way through community college to build his empire from scratch, was nothing but a gold-digging liar who'd tanked our savings on delusional schemes. The room had frozen, forks hovering like guillotines. My mother gasped, her pearls clattering against her collarbone. Dad just stared at his plate, the veins in his neck bulging like he was chewing on gravel. Richard paced, his loafers scuffing the Persian rug we'd bought on our honeymoon in Napa, spilling the truth I'd supposedly hidden, that I'd embezzled from his firm to fund a phantom art gallery dream, leaving us on the brink of bankruptcy. Lies. All of it. I'd taken the fall for him years earlier, signing those falsified ledgers to cover his affair-fueled gambling debts in Vegas. Because that's what a good Southern wife does, swallows the sin to keep the family facade intact. But that night, with the chandelier casting his shadow like a noose over the table, he twisted the knife deeper, calling me ungrateful trash who'd sucked the life out of him. I sat there, my Cobb salad wilting on my plate, heat rising in my cheeks as whispers rippled like kudzu through the kinfolk. Then Ellie, my 8-year-old firecracker with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin that could melt glaciers, dropped her turkey leg and blurted, "Daddy." But Mommy didn't do it. You told me in your office that you lost the money on that lady with the red hair. The table went dead silent. Richard's face, my betrayer's smug mug, drained to the color of buttermilk left out too long, his eyes bulging like a frog on a hot griddle. He stammered, "Ellie, that's not sweetie. You misunderstood, but the damage was done." Cousins shifted. Aunts exchanged glances sharp as switchblades. My mother reached for my hand under the table, her grip a lifeline in the storm. Richard slumped back into his chair, the king dethroned by a child's innocence. And for the first time in our 20-year marriage, I saw fear in those ice-blue eyes, not of me, but of the unraveling thread he'd so carefully woven. That was the hook that snagged my soul, the spark that ignited the inferno. But revenge? It didn't come quick like a backwoods bar fight. No. It slithered in on the wings of something straight out of a fever dream, a body swap that turned my world inside out like a sock full of secrets. It happened 2 nights later, after I'd fled to the guest room with Ellie's words echoing like Judgment Day. I'd popped one of those black market pills from a shady Atlanta pharmacist, some experimental neural enhancer Richard had stashed in his desk drawer, meant for executive edge but whispered to cause hallucinations in the wrong hands. Desperate for clarity, for a way to claw back control, I swallowed it dry, chasing it with the dregs of a Merlot that tasted like regret. Lights out by midnight. And then, nothing. Until I woke up gasping, my chest heavy with pectorals I didn't recognize, legs tangled in silk boxers that reeked of his cologne, obsession, the bastard's signature scent, now clinging to me like a curse. I bolted upright in the king-sized bed, the one with the Egyptian cotton sheets we'd argued over at Macy's, and caught my reflection in the vanity mirror across the room. Richard's face stared back, square jaw, salt and pepper temples, That perpetual 5 o'clock shadow that made him look rugged in boardrooms but predatory in bedrooms. His hands shot to my throat, feeling the atoms apple bob like a buoy in a hurricane. Down below, the unfamiliar weight between my legs made me gag, a visceral wrongness that sent me retching over the ensuite toilet. It was real. Undeniably, vomit-inducingly real. Somewhere in the ether of that pill's alchemy, or whatever dark science birthed it, our bodies had traded places. I was him now, trapped in this vessel of lies and leverage, while God, what fresh hell was he enduring in mine? The first panic hit like a freight train through Peachtree Street. I stumbled downstairs in his terry-cloth robe, the house silent as a grave except for the hum of the Sub-Zero fridge. Ellie was at school, thank Christ for small mercies, and Richard in my body was nowhere. A note on the Carrara Marble Island. Went for a walk. Head hurts like hell. We need to talk. My heart or his heart, pumping too hard against ribs that felt like iron bands seized. Talk? About what? The swap? Or the deeper rot he'd exposed at dinner? I poured his favorite scotch. Neat. And let the burns steady me. This wasn't just a glitch, it was a gift. A goddamn cosmic mulligan. All those years of biting my tongue while he bedded interns and buried debts in offshore accounts. All the nights I'd lied to myself that Ellie deserved her daddy's halo, I could rewrite it. In his skin, I had access to his vaults, his voice, his power. The betrayal that had festered since our Vanderbilt days. When I'd covered for his first cheat with a sorority girl named Becca, now had teeth. But power like that? It's a double-edged chainsaw. Slick with your own doubts. I spent the morning rifling through his home office. The one with the walnut desk and walls lined in mahogany bookshelves groaning under unread Tom Clancy novels. Drawers yielded the usual, Viagra samples, monogrammed cufflinks, a burner phone with texts from Red, that red-haired vixen Ellie had unwittingly named. But deeper, in the false bottom of his humidor, I found the ledger. Not digital, old school, leather-bound like something out of a noir flick. Pages yellowed with entries dating back a decade, siphoned funds from client escrows, laundered through shell companies in the Caymans, all pinned on me in the official records. I'd signed the confessions under duress after he convinced me with threats to Ellie's future, scholarships revoked, whispers to the PDA about my instability. The secret he'd buried wasn't just theft, it was murder. Metaphorical, but no less lethal. One entry, scrawled in his precise block letters, Scarlet Scapegoat, framed for IRS audit fallout. Cost. Her reputation. Our marriage. Rage boiled up. Hot as Georgia asphalt in July. I was the fall guy for his empire-building sins. The devoted fool who'd borne the scarlet letter while he schmoozed at Foxhall Club mixers. And Ellie? She'd overheard fragments, piecing together her daddy's darkness like a puzzle from hell. That dinner bombshell was an accident. It was her quiet rebellion. A child's truth serum injected into the vein of our dysfunction. Now, with his body as my armor, I could dismantle him brick by brick. But how? Poison his deals from the inside? Seduce his allies into betrayal? The controversial paths unfurled in my mind like kudzu vines, dark, tangled, impossible to prune without blood on the shears. By noon, he, in my body, returned, my curves moving with his awkward swagger, my auburn hair tousled like I'd been wrestling demons. He burst into the kitchen, my hazel eyes wild in his borrowed face. What the fuck is this? Scar? Some prank? Drug? I feel violated. His voice, my voice, cracked on the last word, a soprano laced with baritone fury. I turned slowly. Richard's broad shoulders squared, and met my gaze with a smile that felt foreign on his lips, predatory, unyielding. Welcome to my world, Richie. How's it feel to wake up small, overlooked, the invisible wife at your own party? He lunged, but my new frame was quicker, stronger. I sidestepped, grabbing my wrist with a twist that made me yelp. Don't, I hissed, low and lethal. You touch this body. You touch me. And I've got nothing left to lose. We circled like alley cats in heat, the island between us a DMZ of granite and ghosts. He ranted about lawsuits, therapists, calling the cops, ironic, given his rap sheet. But I saw the calculation flicker in those eyes, the same one that had charmed investors out of millions. This is temporary, he spat. Whatever you did, we'll fix it. For Ellie. Ah. The ace up his sleeve. Always the daughter card. But I leaned in, his cologne wafting back at me like a slap, and whispered, Ellie knows. Richard. She knows about Red. The money. The lies you fed her like candy. And now, she's going to watch you burn. His face, mine, paled, the ghostliness from dinner returning tenfold. For the first time, the puppeteer felt the string snap. That standoff was the ignition. Over the next weeks, I inhabited his life like a virus in the bloodstream, subtle at first, then systemic. Mornings, I'd drop Ellie at school in his Escalade, her small hand in mine feeling alien, yet achingly right, fielding her questions with half-truths. Mommy and Daddy are playing a game. Sweetie. To fix what's broken. She'd nod, those big eyes trusting. But I caught the wariness, the way she clung tighter. Afternoons bled into board meetings at Hayes Realty Group, where I parroted his shtick, handshakes firm as contracts, jokes about SEC regs that landed like lead balloons. The partners noticed the off vibe. Richard Hayes, usually a shark in chinos, now hesitant, second-guessing deals. Whispers started. Burnout? Midlife? I fueled them, accidentally forwarding emails that hinted at audits, planting seeds of doubt in the C-suite. Nights were the real theater of the absurd. I'd slip into silk pajamas that hung loose on my frame, staring at the ceiling fan whirring like a conspiracy. He'd taken the guest room, barricaded with my old yoga mats and essential oils, emerging only for coffee laced with glares. We avoided mirrors, avoided touch, two strangers haunting the same haunted house. But the swaps mechanics nod at me. Why us? The pills label. Pilfered from his trash. Neuralink X. A Black Ops trial from some Atlanta biotech firm he'd invested in. Promising empathy immersion for executives, but glitchy as a Windows crash. Empathy. The irony curdled like spoiled sweet tea. If this was meant to make him feel my pain, it backfired spectacularly. He adapted faster than kudzu, using my body to charm the neighbors, bake lemon bars for the HOA bake sale, even flirt with the barista at Starbucks on Roswell Road. Scarlett's been so liberated lately, Mrs. Jenkins from next door cooed over the fence one afternoon. Liberated. Right. My first real move came subtle, a feint in the revenge tango. Red, real name Rebecca Langford. A 28-year-old realtor with Daddy's trust fund and a laugh like shattered crystal had been his side piece for 18 months. Their texts painted a portrait of tawdry bliss, hotel trysts at the St. Regis, her riding him in the back of his Tahoe parked at Piedmont Park. Controversial? Hell yes. I scheduled a client meeting at her midtown loft, the one with the exposed brick and skyline views that screamed millennial excess. Showing up in his body, Armani's suit tailored just so. I played the part, the remorseful husband ready to end it clean. She poured Cabernet, her red mane cascading like a warning flag, and leaned in with that predatory purr. Rick, baby, I've missed you. What's with a cold shoulder? I let him take the wheel for a beat, tracing her jawline with fingers that remembered nothing of her, but everything of betrayal. Becca, this has to stop. Scarlett knows. Her eyes narrowed.
Cat-like.
But I pressed, voice dropping to his gravel timbre. She could ruin me. Us.
Lies.
Of course. But the fear hooked her. Then the twist. I kissed her. Slow and searing, pouring every ounce of Scarlett's suppressed fury into it, a violation wrapped in seduction. She melted, moaning his name. But as her hands fumbled with my belt, I pulled back, whispering, "Tell me everything. The ledgers, the trips, insurance,
Becca.
or I walk, and you get nothing." Greed won, she spilled. Offshore codes,
Dummy core.
even the Vegas pit boss who'd laundered the biggest chunk. By dawn, I had it all on a thumb drive hidden in a sock drawer. The first domino teetering. But revenge isn't a straight shot down I-75. It's riddled with potholes of morality. Detours through doubt. Ellie sensed the fracture, curling into me one night on the living room sectional, her head on his lap.
Daddy.
Are you really daddy? You smell different. Like mommy's lavender soap. My throat tightened, the lie bitter as quinine. It's me.
Peanut. Just.
Trying new things. She traced the veins on my forearm, those that had signed away my freedom, and murmured, "I don't like the game. Make it stop." Guilt clawed up, sharp as Spanish moss thorns. Was I saving her, or scarring her deeper? The controversial decisions loomed. Expose him publicly? Risk her seeing the headlines, real estate mogul's wife in body swap scandal? Or go nuclear? Frame him in my body for the embezzlement he'd pinned on me? The power hummed, dark and addictive. But Ellie's trust was the tether keeping me from free fall. As weeks bled into a month, Richard adapted too, his cunning sharpening in my softer shell. He'd started therapy sessions with Dr. Patel, the Park Avenue shrink I'd begged him to see for years, spinning yarns of identity dissociation. The doc bought it, prescribing SSRIs that made me foggy, compliant. Worse, he charmed my book club, quoting Atwood with a southern drawl that sounded rehearsed, earning nods from the Chardonnay-sipping hens. Scarlett's glowing, they'd say at pickup, and I'd nod through gritted teeth. Richard's smile masking my snarl. He was stealing my life,
Piece by piece.
while I eroded his from within. At the firm, I greenlit a deal with a shady developer, cut-rate condos on contaminated soil near the Chattahoochee, knowing it'd trigger EPA flags. Whispers turned to murmurs. Haze is slipping. Investors pulled back. Stock dipping like a stone in Lake Lanier. The tension coiled tighter. A spring trap ready to snap. One rainy Thursday, as thunder rumbled over Stone Mountain, he confronted me in the garage. My body dwarfed by his borrowed bulk, but eyes blazing with his old fire. "You're fucking it up."
Scar.
"The merger's tanking because of your amateur hour bullshit." Rain sheeted down the windshield of his Porsche, blurring the world outside. I leaned against the workbench, tools glinting like accusations. My bullshit? Try yours. Richie. The one where you gambled away our nest egg and hung it on me like a noose. He stepped closer, my curves taut with his rage. You think this swap changes facts? You were complicit. Signed every paper. Lies again. But the venom stung. We were inches apart, breaths mingling his scotch, my mint gum, and for a heartbeat, I saw the man I'd married. Ambitious. Broken. Loving in fractured ways. Then he swung. A slap aimed at his cheek, but I caught the wrist, twisting until I whimpered. Touch me again, I growled. And Ellie's next call is to CPS, telling them Daddy's abusing Mommy. He recoiled, horror flickering, not for the threat, but the mirror it held. That night, alone in the master bath, I popped another Neuralink.
Chasing permanence.
But it only amplified the dissonance, echoes of his memories bleeding into mine. Flashes of Becca's thighs. Boardroom conquests. The night he'd proposed on Tybee Island with a ring bought on credit. Empathy. Indeed. It humanized the monster, made the blade dull. But dawn brought clarity. The climax was coming. The revenge, not in destruction, but revelation. I'd leak the ledger to the AJC. Time it for the family reunion barbecue. Let the kin see the rot firsthand. Controversial? Exposing a father to his daughter. Airing dirty linen in the Bible Belt? Damn straight. But justice demanded it. Or so I told the face in the mirror that wasn't mine. Little did I know. The real storm was brewing in Ellie's backpack. A crayon-scrawled note she'd slipped to the school counselor that week. My parents are switched. Daddy's in Mommy, and he's mean now. The authorities called that afternoon. Social services rolling up like thunderheads. Richard, in my body, played the victim flawless. Tears streaming down my cheeks as he recounted hallucinations and marital strife. In his stead, blustered through interviews, his baritone cracking under scrutiny. Ellie was whisked away for evaluation, her small suitcase packed with stuffed animals and unanswered questions. The house emptied, echoing with accusations. He cornered me in the foyer, victory gleaming in my stolen eyes. Checkmate.
Scar.
You pushed too far. But revenge, true and you am, doesn't end in checkmate. It ends in chaos. As cops swarmed for the firm's records, tipped anonymously by Becca, her greed flipped to self-preservation. The ledger surfaced. Headlines screamed, Atlanta tycoon faces embezzlement charges. Wife's body swap hoax unravels empire. The world spun. Tabloids feasting on the freak show. Therapy docs leaked. Neuralink trials exposed as unethical psyops funded by Richard's cronies. He crumbled first, barricaded in the guest room, my body wasting away on Xanax and denial. I held the fort, fielding calls from lawyers slick as oil. But inside, the swap's toll mounted, his heart racing erratically. Doctors muttering stress-induced arrhythmia. The climax hit at the pretrial hearing in Fulton County Courthouse. Humid air thick with magnolia and malice. Ellie testified via video link. Her face pale on the screen. Voice steady as a deacon's. Daddy did bad things. He told me to lie about Mommy. The gallery gasped. Richard in my body. Shackled and disheveled. Slumping as if gut-punched. I watched from the plaintiff's table, his suit hanging loose, feeling the noose tighten not on me, but him. The judge banged the gavel, bail denied, assets frozen. As they led him away, he twisted, screaming in my voice. Scarlett, you bitch, this isn't over. It wasn't. That night, Alone in the holding cell they'd prepped for, richer haze, the twist uncoiled like a rattler in the underbrush. A guard slipped me a manila envelope. Unmarked, inside, a paternity report, dated 6 months back. Ellie's DNA.
Mine. And.
Not his. The father? Becca's estranged brother. A one-night blur from a Vail ski trip I'd buried under wine and denial. Richard had known, stashed the test in his safe. Used it as leverage to keep me silent on his sins. The betrayal reversed. A Mobius strip of pain. I'd borne his crimes. But he'd borne mine in secret. The perfect family, a mutual hostage crisis. Laughter bubbled up. Hysterical. Echoing off cinderblocks. Who was the villain now? The wife who'd framed her lover's kin? Or the husband who'd blackmailed with blood ties? Weeks blurred in custody. The swap's grip loosening like a fever breaking, doctors chalking it to psychosomatic reversal, but I knew better. Neuralink's creators, hauled before Congress, admitted the exchanges were temporary, triggered by unresolved trauma. Fitting in this American carnival of dysfunction. Richard confessed everything, the thefts, the affairs, even planting the pill as a joke to gaslight me further. But the real gut punch? Ellie's words at the final hearing, piped in from foster care, "I want mommy back." Not the game. She didn't know whose body held whose soul. But kids see truth through the bullshit. In the end, they released us to neutral ground, a halfway house in Decatur. Therapy mandated cohabitation for Ellie's sake. The empire? Auctioned off to pay restitution, leaving us scraping by on alimony scraps and my old graphic design gigs. Richard, back in his skin, hollow-eyed and humbled, cooks dinners now, burnt meatloaf and apologies served with peas. Scarlet again. Watch him over the Formica table, wondering if forgiveness is the ultimate revenge or just another lie we tell ourselves. Ellie thrives, gap-toothed grin wider, but she eyes us like puzzles half-solved. A happy ending? Or bykitsch wrapped in a bow? You decide. Reader, in this land of reinvention, where Southern belles rise from ashes or drown in them, who's to say? The halfway house on the outskirts of Decatur smelled like institutional Lysol and unfulfilled dreams. A far cry from the jasmine-scented verandas of our old life in Buckhead. But in the quiet hours after Ellie's bedtime stories, me reading where the wild things are in a voice that still felt borrowed, I'd catch Richard staring at his hands, flexing fingers that had once signed empires into existence, now calloused from mopping floors at the temp agency. Scar, he'd murmur. The nickname a ghost from Vanderbilt frat parties. Do you ever wonder if we deserve this? The swap. I mean, like some divine reset button. I'd snort, sipping herbal tea from a chipped mug, the steam curling like cigarette smoke from a bygone vice. Deserve? Honey. In America, we don't get what we deserve, we get what we hustle for. And right now, I'm hustling for peace.
But peace was a mirage,
shimmering just beyond the next revelation. The trial had wrapped 6 months post-swap, a media circus that turned our quiet implosion into a true crime podcast goldmine. Swap souls. The Hayes deception racked up episodes faster than Richard's old poker losses, with armchair therapists dissecting our codependent trauma bond. The public lapped it up, Southern scandal with a sci-fi twist. Perfect for water-cooler debates in cubicle farms from Savannah to Seattle. We'd become cautionary memes when your marriage needs a body double. Ellie, bless her, navigated it with kid resilience, doodling family fix-it kits in her sketchbook, crayon blueprints for happiness that broke my heart cleaner than any gavel. My revenge, though, It lingered like humidity after a storm. Not sated by his confession or the plea deal that shaved years off his sentence. House arrest in the halfway house. Ankle monitor beeping like a digital scarlet letter. Gave me time to plot the endgame. Controversial decisions? I'd already crossed lines that would make Dr. Patel blush during the swap. In his body. I'd not just leaked the ledger but doctored a few entries, subtle digital fingerprints pointing to his poker buddies. Old Sigma Chi wolves who'd howled with him over strip steaks at Bones. It was vigilante bookkeeping, the kind that could land me in stripes if uncovered. But damn if it didn't feel like balancing the scales.
Now.
Back in my skin, curves soft from stress-eating moonpeas. I eyed the final play, Becca. She'd slithered back into Atlanta's underbelly after the scandal. Peddling luxury flips to oblivious execs in her daddy's old firm. But guilt, or fear, had her reaching out via a burner email. Scarlet.
Coffee?
Need to clear the air. For Ellie's sake. Lies. Of course. But I bit. We met at a hole-in-the-wall on Ponce de Leon, the kind with Formica counters and pie that tasted like regret. Becca slid into the booth. Red hair subdued to a bob. Her designer threads frayed at the hems. I'm sorry, she started, stirring sugar into black coffee like it was absolution. Rick, he manipulated us both. The ledgers. The threats. I was young. Stupid.
Young.
At 29 now. She was still playing ingenue. But I saw the cracks, the tremor in her manicure, the way her eyes darted to the door. I leaned forward, my hazel gaze free of his ice boring in. Sorry doesn't unscramble the eggs.
Becca.
You knew about the frame job. Hell. You suggested the offshore pivot over champagne at the Four Seasons. Her flush confirmed it. I'd bluffed from a tip during the swap. One of his slurred voicemails I'd scrubbed clean. She stammered denials. But I pressed. Ellie's therapy bills are stacking up. Richard's restitution barely covers rent. You owe us.
Oh.
The word hung heavy, laced with the unspoken. Expose your complicity. Or I drop the paternity bomb publicly. Her brother, the unwitting sperm donor from that veil fling, was a rising DA now, ambitions that'd shatter like cheap crystal under that headline. Controversial? Blackmailing the mistress with family secrets? In the court of scarlet haze. It was poetic justice. Dark as the sweet tea, I sipped slow. She wired the check that afternoon, 50 grand, for old times, disguised as a settlement from her firm's negligent oversight. It bought us breathing room, a lease on a bungalow in East Atlanta, the kind with gingerbread trim and a yard for Ellie's swing set. Richard signed the papers without question, his signature shaky but compliant, murmuring, "Whatever gets us whole again."
Whole.
The word mocked me as I unpacked boxes in the new place. Sunlight slanting through lace curtains like forgiveness I wasn't ready to claim. Nights. He'd linger in the kitchen, chopping onions for gumbo, his mama's recipe. The one he'd always pawned off on me. I get it now. Scar, he'd say, knife pausing mid-slice. The weight. Being the one who bends. Empathy from the Neuralinks ghost. Or genuine fracture. I'd nod. Non-committal. But inside. The tension coiled. Trust him. And risk another blade. Destroy him fully. And orphan Ellie's heart. The hidden secret resurfaced like a corpse in the Chattahoochee, Richard's journal. Unearthed during the asset liquidation. Tucked in a safety deposit box at SunTrust. It chronicled not just sins but sorrows, the gambling born of his daddy's suicide after '08 crash, the affairs as escape from boardroom ulcers. One entry gutted me. Scarlett took the fall because she's stronger. I'm the coward who loves her too much to let go.
Love.
Twisted. Tainted. But there in ink black as midnight. It humanized him further. Muddied the villainy I'd armored myself in. Was the swap punishment? Or probation? For both of us? I burned the pages in the bungalow's fire pit, ashes swirling like confetti at a funeral. Deciding then, revenge ends when redemption whispers. But the antagonist in me, the one forged in that family dinner's forge, wouldn't yield easy. The climax brewed at Ellie's school play, a saccharine Charlotte's Web where she voiced Fern with thespian flair. The auditorium buzzed with proud parents, but I spotted Becca in the back row, anonymous in a ball cap, eyes locked on our girl like a hawk on a field mouse. Paranoia? Or pattern? Post-curtain. As Ellie bowed to thunderous applause, Becca approached, bouquet in hand. She's beautiful.
Scar.
Takes after you. Venom in velvet. Richard, hovering with camcorder in tow, stiffened. He knew the subtext. The unspoken claim on our bloodline. I stepped between them. Voice low. Walk away.
Becca.
The check cleared. Don't make me cash the next one in court. She laughed. Brittle as magnolia bark. You think money fixes this? Rick's not the only one with secrets. Then the bomb. That Vale weekend? You weren't drunk. You orchestrated it. Push my brother into your bed to trap him. Secure your legacy, when Rick's swimmers proved. Underwhelming. Lies? Half-truths? Memory flickered. Desperation after years of fertility docs. A calculated tumble in the hot tub. But trap?
No. Or.
Yes. The doubt slithered in. Controversial as original sin. Richard pulled Ellie close, his arm around her shoulders a shield, while I faced Becca down. Get out, I hissed, or I tell the world how you laundered for a felon. Family first, remember? She slunk away. But the seed planted. Was I the moo-moo-mo? The power player who'd mirrored his manipulations? The drive home was silent. Ellie chattering about Wilbur from the back seat, oblivious to the fault lines cracking the dashboard. That night, storm winds howling off Stone Mountain, Richard and I finally talked raw, unfiltered. No bodies bartered. I knew about the test, he admitted, voice cracking like thunder. But I stayed. Because she's ours.
Scar.
Blood or not.
Ours.
The word unlocked something. A floodgate of tears and truths. My own buried crime. The art gallery scheme that wasn't delusion but a side hustle to fund his rehab I'd never told him about. Betrayals bidirectional. A Mobius of mistakes. Dawn brought tentative truce. We enrolled in couples counseling at a Decatur clinic, the kind with lava lamps and essential oils masking the desperation. Ellie thrived, her pigtails bouncing at soccer practice on the new AstroTurf fields. Friends none the wiser to our tabloid past. Richard found work as a property manager, irony's gift, scouting foreclosures with a humility that suited his laugh lines.
Me?
I launched a blog. Swapped perspectives, surviving the American dream. Anonymized but cathartic. Readers debating in comments. Victim or villainous? The revenue trickled. Enough for date nights at Hole in the Wall to carry us, where we toast to second acts. Yet the undercurrent persisted. A shadow at high noon. Becca vanished, rumor had it. A move to Charleston. New life. New lies. But her parting shot echoed. Had I, in my quest for control, become the betrayer? The twist reversed not just truths, but mirrors, showing us both as flawed architects of our cage. Happy? In flashes. Yes, Ellie's graduation someday. Our hands intertwined in the crowd.
Beakik.
In the quiet doubts. The what-ifs that wake me at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. America promises reinvention. But in the South, ghosts cling like Spanish moss, beautiful, burdensome, begging the question, is revenge the chain that binds, or the key that frees? Ellie asked once, over pancakes sticky with syrup. Mommy? Daddy? Are you fixed now? We exchanged glances, his blue eyes meeting my hazel, and chorused, working on it, peanut. She grinned, gap-toothed and golden. And, in that moment, the tension eased, if only a fraction. The story doesn't end with bows or blood. It lingers. Debatable as a back porch debate over bourbon. Did Scarlet win? Or did the swap swallow us all? You tell me. As the credits roll on this American Gothic reel. Epilogues in real life aren't tidy montages with swelling strings. They're more like outtakes, jerky, unscripted, with plenty of flubbed lines and forgotten props. A year post-trial, our bungalow in East Atlanta had sprouted roots, tomato vines twisting up the chain-link fence, Ellie's bike rusting under the carport, Richard's toolbox spilling wrenches like confetti from a piñata of half repairs. I'd traded the blog for freelance gigs, designing logos for startups that smelled of venture capital and desperation, while he climbed the ladder at a nonprofit, rehabbing habitats for low-income families. Poetic. In a way, the man who'd stripped fortunes now rebuilding nests. We'd even hosted a block party, grilling burgers on a Weber that belched smoke like old grudges. Neighbors toasting our comeback story without prying too deep into the tabloid scars. But the dark tension, that American underbelly of ambition laced with arsenic, never fully dissipated. It simmered in the small hours. When thunder rattled the windows and I'd trace the faint lines on my arms, stretch marks from Ellie's birth, badges of a body I'd mourned during the swap. Richard slept soundly now, his snores a metronome of mundane redemption. But I'd slip downstairs, brew chamomile in the clawfoot tub shadow, and scroll anonymous forums where our saga lived on. Was Scarlet the real crook? That paternity twist scream set up. Debates raged. Armchair juries split, feminists crowning me avenger. Trads decrying my vindictive harpy moves. Controversial to the core, our tale fueled dissertations and dinner fights. A Rorschach blot of morality in the MAGA meets Me Too era. Ellie turned 10 that spring. Her party a whirlwind of piñatas and princess crowns in Grant Park. The air sweet with funnel cakes and the distant hum of traffic on the downtown connector. She'd grown lanky, all knees and elbows, with my curls but his dimples, a genetic mashup that mocked the DNA drama. As kids swarmed the bounce house, Richard pulled me aside behind the oak tree strung with fairy lights. Scar. I've been thinking about closure. His voice was soft, stripped of the salesman's sheen, eyes crinkling with that boyish vulnerability I'd fallen for at 20. Closure. The word hung like Spanish moss, heavy with implication. He'd found something in the nonprofit's archives, a box of his daddy's letters. Yellowed missives from the Depression era, chronicling a man broken by Wall Street's whims. He gambled to escape, like I did. The apple doesn't fall far. But you pull me back from the edge.
Pulled.
Or pushed. The old doubts stirred. Becca's whisper echoing. The veiled trap. My calculated tumble. I'd never confirmed it fully. Memories blurred by eggnog and estrogen, but in quiet confessions to Dr. Patel, I'd admitted the flirtation. The hope-fueled haze. Not malice. but manipulation. A wife's quiet coup in a marriage tilting toward tilt. We both fell short. "Richie," I said, squeezing his hand, calluses rough against my palm. "But Ellie's our North Star. Let's not dim her sky with more storms." He nodded, pulling me into a hug that smelled of sunscreen and second chances. But as his chin rested on my head, I felt the blade's ghost, revenge's residue. Sharp as ever. The final twist slithered in unannounced, courtesy of a certified letter from the biotech firm's bankruptcy trustee. Neuralink X wasn't just a glitchy pill, it was a psyop. Funded by DARPA offshoots for empathic warfare training, making soldiers feel the enemy's pain to break wills faster. Richard's investment? A kickback from a general buddy at Fort Benning. Laundering military slush funds through real estate shells. The ledger's deepest secret, our swap wasn't random karma, but engineered exposure, triggered by the dinner's emotional spike to test domestic resilience. We'd been lab rats in a Cold War echo, our betrayal amplified for data points. The trustee offered hush money, 6 figures, for discretion, but I shredded it, flames dancing in the sink like vindication. Controversial? Suing the feds?
Nah.
Instead, I leaked the docs to ProPublica, anonymized, letting journalists chase the shadows. Headlines followed, body swap scandal tied to Pentagon mind games. Debates exploded anew, conspiracy fodder for QAnon boards, ethics debates in Beltway bars. Richard took it harder, pacing the bungalow's creaky floors, muttering about deep state fuckery. They used us.
Scar.
Like pawns. I pulled him down to the couch, our weight sagging the springs, and traced his jaw, the same one I'd worn like a mask. Then we clean it up. Write the book. Expose the bastards. For Ellie. For every swapped soul out there. He laughed, bitter then bright. And we did, exchanged, an American couple's fight against the invisible war. It hit shelves a year later. Ghost-written, but raw. Climbing charts with blurbs from Oprah-adjacent influencers. Royalties bought the bungalow outright. A swing set upgrade. Even a trip to Napa full circle. Sans the poison. But the UAM? It crowned the climax. Not in courts or cash, but in Ellie's eyes one crisp fall evening, as we raked leaves in the yard, crimson and gold swirling like confetti from a better life. She paused, rake in hand, and fixed us with that precocious stare. "Mommy?"
Daddy.
"The game's over, right? No more secrets." We froze, leaves crunching underfoot, the weight of a decade's detritus in her words. Richard knelt, pulling her close. "Over."
Peanut.
"Promise." I joined, our trio a knot of limbs and love, but as she hugged back, I caught the flicker, her quiet knowledge, pieced from overheard calls and crayon confessions. She'd borne our crimes too, the child scapegoat in our adult folly. The ending? Debatable as a Supreme Court split. Happy, if you count stability, therapy Tuesdays, PDA meetings sans scandals. Richard's gumbo improving with each Bayou batch.
Beakik.
In the scars, mine from swallowed sins, his from fallen crowns, hers from a childhood cracked like Georgia clay. We argue still, over bills and bedtime, but the fights end in laughter, tentative as kudzu blooming. Revenge taught me, it's a cycle, not a crown break it, or be broken. In this tense tapestry of American reinvention, where power preys and secrets fester, Scarlet Hayes chose the latter. Or did she? The mirror winks back, ambiguous as ever. daring you to judge. As the sun dipped behind the bungalow, painting the sky bloody with dusk, Ellie scampered inside for Coco, leaving us to the rake's rhythm. Richard bumped my shoulder, grin crooked. Think we make it? I smirked, tossing a leaf his way. Hell, we already did.
Now.
Pass the pie. And in that mundane mercy, the story closes, not with a bang, but a bite of pecan sweetness, lingering on the tongue like hope half-baked.